Femi was a typical womanizer, a smooth talker with good looks, a sharp mind and a fashion sense that made heads turn. He was the kind of guy who seems to have everything going for him. Apart from his dashing appearance, he was brilliant. His classmates would line up for tutorials, and he always helped them out for free. Girls were always around him, drawn to his charms, and Femi didn't disappoint. His friends would hail him and call him Femo Debe Debe. He was called that because of his history with girls. In the department alone, he boasts among his friends about how he has gotten intimate with 32 girls out of 34 girls in his department. And his friends would say, original Femo Debe Debe. Another one is a counterfeit, and he would lick his lips feeling himself. After graduating from university, Femi moved on to his National Youth Service course, NYSC posting, which landed him at St. Mary's Girls' School in Ibadan. The principal, Mrs. Yetunde, had been in education for over 33 years. She was strict, diligent. She had earned the reputation of being a no-nonsense leader. She was known for overseeing everything in the school, making sure all was in order. When she first met Femi, Mrs. Yetunde had her doubts. She had worked with other core members before, and their behaviors had left much to be desired. Mrs. Yetunde was quick to confide in Mr. Ajani, the school's vice principal. This guy seems smart, Mrs. Yetunde said. He knows his stuff academically, but we need to be cautious. This is an all-girls school, remember? I've seen many things. I've seen how things go with some of these men, and I'm not sure I trust him yet. Mr. Ajani, a very diligent and loyal staff member, assured her that he would keep an eye on Femi. They both agreed to be vigilant. Despite her doubts, Femi was an exceptional teacher. He had the kind of charisma that made even the most difficult subject like physics come alive. The students loved his classes. They looked forward to his lessons. And even the less enthusiastic students started to show interest in the subject. He made both practical and theory sessions engaging. And soon, Femi had a following. The girls adored him. And it didn't take long before he was the most popular person in the school. However, Femi's reputation wasn't just about his teaching skills. His old habits hadn't disappeared. He was still a womanizer. The students would flirt with him, often winking or sending in subtle signals. And Femi, always the smooth operator, would wink back, flashing his signature smile. Before long, he was involved with several girls at the school. Femi got sick from drinking contaminated water and got ill. He was experiencing severe stomach pain and vomiting. His fellow corps members rushed him to the nearest clinic where he was treated and kept under observation. Although his condition improved slightly, but was still not fully recovered. But even while lying in a hospital bed, Femi's flirtatious nature didn't take a break. He was charming the nurse, completely unfazed by his health issue. He would randomly look at the nurse and wink at her, but the nurse would ignore and act professional. He finally recovered and went back to work. Meanwhile, the drama in school continued. Shola, one of the top girls in the school, she proudly declared herself Femi's girlfriend. She got into a fierce fight with another girl who also claimed Femi's attention, and the argument escalated to the point where they tore each other's uniforms. Both girls were summoned to the principal's office. When Mrs. Yetunde asked them what happened, neither of them could speak up. Both were punished severely, but the drama didn't stop there. Soon enough, Femi's flirtations weren't confined to just the students. Teachers, both single and married, also fell under his spell. One fateful day, Mrs. Ola, one of the teachers, was caught in Femi's room by Shola, his supposed main girlfriend. When Shola saw her, all hell broke loose. The two women began fighting. Imagine a teacher and a student fighting over another copper, each accusing the other of being with Femi. Femi, ever the escape artist, ran away, leaving the two women in a fierce battle. It was chaos. The news of the fight spread like wildfire, and it didn't take long before it reached Mrs. Yetunde's ears. she was deeply ashamed. Not only because of the public spectacle, but because her school was now in the spotlight for all the wrong reasons. Things went from bad to worse when 4 parents arrived at the school the next evening. They were furious. Their daughters, they claimed, had been impregnated by Femi. The scandal was enough to shake the school to its core. Mrs. Yetunde was beside herself. She had trusted Femi to be a role model for the girls, but he had betrayed the trust in the most shocking way. Newsfly, they say. One of the guys at the Corpers Lodge came to Femi about the accusations and all the students claiming to be pregnant for him. He said, "This is trouble. I need to act fast." He caught the first bus to Ibadan. As the bus rumbled down the road, Femi couldn't help but think about how far he had fallen, how the charming, carefree boy he once was had been swallowed by his own vices. The girls, the attention, the endless game of conquest, it had all come crashing down in the most dramatic way possible. When he finally arrived home, Femi was exhausted. His mother was in the kitchen, cooking and humming softly as she prepared dinner. She looked up as they entered, a smile fading when she saw the look on his face. "Femi," she said softly, walking over to him. "What's wrong, my son?" Femi didn't answer at first. He simply collapsed into a chair, burying his face in his hands. The weight of everything was too much for him to carry. His body trembled as the tears he had been holding back finally broke free. He recounted everything to his mother. The scandal at the school, how he had betrayed their trust, how his actions had ruined the lives of the girls he had taken advantage of. His mother listened in silence, her face a mixture of concern and sorrow. When Femi finished speaking, she sat down next to him, her eyes filled with a sadness that cupped deep into his soul. "Femi," she said softly, "I think it's time I tell you something I've kept from you all these years. Something you need to know." Femi looked up at her, his eyes full of confusion. What could it possibly be now? Was there more bad news? More things he didn't want to hear? "I think it's time to let you know what really killed your father," she continued, her voice trembling slightly. "Your father died when you were just a little boy, but I never told you the real story." Femi's heart skipped a beat. The thought of his father had always been a painful one, but he had never known the full details of his death. His mother had always shielded him from the truth. "You see," his mother went on, "your father was chasing after a woman with a very large backside. He was so obsessed with her, so focused on the idea of her, that he didn't see the trailer coming. It was a truck that had lost control on the road, and it hit him. He was crushed, Femi. Crushed because of his foolishness, his obsession with something that didn't matter." Femi stared at her, his chest tightening as the words sank in. He had always known his father's death was tragic, but hearing the reason behind it, the reckless chase after something so fleeting and shallow, hit him like a ton of bricks. His mother's eyes glistened with unshed tears. "I've kept this from you all these years because I didn't want you to hate your father. But now I wonder if it's a curse that's been passed down." She took his hand in hers, agreed firm but gentle. "Please, my son, I'm begging you, turn a new leaf. Don't end up like your father. Don't let this obsession, this desire for something that will never bring you true happiness, ruin your life too." Femi sat in stunned silence, his mother's words echoing in his mind. His father, the man he had looked up to, had died chasing after something so empty. And now, Femi had walked the same path, ruining his own life and lives of others, all for the pursuit of fleeting pleasure. He sighed deeply, the weight of the truth settling on him. He had been living in a haze of ego, desire and pride, not realizing that he was trapped in a cycle. And now, it seemed that he had inherited more than just his father's looks. He had inherited his fatal flaw, and he sat there. The realization washed over him. Maybe this is a curse. Maybe I have been doomed to repeat his mistakes. But in that moment, something in Femi shifted. His heart, once full of pride and arrogance, now ached with regret. His mother's words had opened his eyes to the reality of his life, to the path he had been walking. It wasn't too late to change, was it? There was still time. He could still turn his life around, break the cycle before it ruins him. I understand now, Femi said quietly, his voice barely above a whisper. I've been living the wrong way, like I was invincible, but I see it now. I see how I've hurt people, how I've hurt myself. His mother smiled softly, wiping a tear from her eye. I pray you find your way, Femi. I pray you won't end up like your father. Femi nodded, his heart heavy but determined. He didn't know what the future would hold or how long it would take to change. But one thing was certain. This was the turning point. He was done with the empty pursuit of things that didn't matter. It was time to let go of the past and rewrite his future. He stood up slowly, looking at his mother with a quiet resolve. I'll try, Mom. I'll try to be better. I won't let the same thing happen to me, I promise. And for the first time in a long while, Femi felt a flicker of hope. The curse, if it existed, was broken. It was time to turn a new leaf. So my dear viewers, I hope you've been able to learn one or two lessons from this story. You can kindly pen down your thoughts in the comment section. I love to hear from you guys, and thank you guys for the love. You're on 200 subscriber right now. Let's keep growing. Road to 500 subscriber. Thank you guys for the love. I do not take it for granted, and I'm going to see you in another video. Bye.